First of all, I am grateful to all of you gentlemen that you come to our channel. Today we will talk about Mossad. Often the question comes to our mind that, what is Mossad agency? Who is controlling that? How Mossad becomes so powerful? Why Mossad is so famous? What's the biggest operations of Mossad? Is there any agency also that's more powerful than Mossad? Who's the founder of that? Is Mossad always right? Today we are going to answer all these types of questions, that you can easily understand it. So let's start.
Yossi Cohen, the former chief of Israel's intelligence agency Mossad, made a startling revelation when he said that Israel carried out countless operations against Iran's nuclear program and in the heartland of the Ayatollahs. Without going into too many details, I can tell you the Mossad had many successes in the fight against Iran's nuclear program. We operated around the world and on Iranian soil itself in the very heartland of the Ayatollahs, he had said at an event in Switzerland on Monday. Cohen, who led the spy agency from January 2016 to June 2021.
More on what Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is dealing with. And now he's having a rift with his defense minister, Benny Gantz. They clashed after the former issued a veiled threat against the Biden administration's effort to return to the 2015 nuclear deal with Iran. Netanyahu says that he's willing to risk friction with the United States to prevent Iran from going nuclear. He claims a nuclear Iran remains the biggest threat to Israel. He added that with or without an agreement, his country would continue to do everything to prevent Iran from arming itself with nuclear weapons.
Mossad. Mossad is the National Intelligence Agency of Israel. It is one of the main entities in the Israeli intelligence community, along with Aman and Shin Bet. Mossad is responsible for intelligence collection, covert operations, and counter-terrorism. Its director answers directly and only to the Prime Minister. Headquarters, Tel Aviv-Yafo, Israel. Founder, David Ben-Gurion. Founded, December 13, 1949. Jurisdiction, Israel. Employees, classified, 7,000 estimated. Annual budget, classified, $2.73 billion estimated. Agency Executive, David Barnea, Director. Parent Agency, Office of the Prime Minister. Mossad. Mossad, also spelled Mossad, in full Mossad Markazi Limodi Yul Tafkadim Mayuhadim, Hebrew, Central Institute for Intelligence and Special Operations, one of the three major intelligence organizations of Israel, along with Aman, military intelligence, and Shin Bet, internal security. The Mossad is concerned with foreign intelligence gathering, intelligence analysis, and covert operations. Formally established in December 1949 as the Institute for Coordination, the Mossad was the successor to the intelligence arm of Haganah, the Jewish military force in Palestine during the British Mandate period. Reuven Shaloa, who had been involved in special operations and secret diplomacy during the pre-state period, served as the first director. Bureaucratic conflicts hampered the new agency in its early days. It took more than a year for the agency to become operational, and it suffered an early embarrassment in 1951 when an Israeli spy ring in Baghdad was exposed and intelligence officers were arrested. Shaloa retired in 1952 and was replaced by Isser Harel, who had previously served as the head of Shin Bet. Harel was credited with building the Mossad into a highly professional organization capable of conducting operations around the world during his 11-year tenure, 1952-63. One high-profile success, the capture in 1960 of former Nazi Adolf Eichmann in Argentina by a Mossad team and his exfiltration to Israel to stand trial for war crimes, demonstrated the agency's proficiency and confidence in high-risk operations. The Mossad maintains numerous Israeli secret agents in Arab and other nations. The most famous of these was Eli Cohen, an Egyptian-born Jew who infiltrated the highest ranks of the Syrian government by posing as a Syrian businessman before being discovered and executed in 1965. The Mossad and its operatives have carried out undercover operations against enemies of Israel and former Nazi war criminals living abroad. Mossad agents tracked down and assassinated the Arab guerrilla leaders responsible for the massacre of Israeli athletes at the 1972 Munich Olympic Games, and the Mossad has also been linked with several assassinations of Palestinian leaders in Europe, the Middle East, and North Africa. the Mossad is concerned with foreign intelligence gathering, intelligence analysis, and covert operations. With an annual budget of about $3 billion and 7,000 staff, Mossad is the second largest espionage agency in the Western world after the CIA. That makes the person chosen to be the head of Mossad very powerful.
What is the Mossad intelligence agency? In December of 1949, soon after the founding of the state, Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion officially created Israel's intelligence agency for operations outside the country's borders. He named it the Institute for Intelligence and Special Operations, but it quickly became known as the Institute, or the Mossad. Once Ben-Gurion established the Mossad, the Israeli intelligence services became the three-pronged machine that it remains today. Aman, the military intelligence arm that provides intel to the IDF, Israeli Defense Forces, the Shabak, or Shin Bet, which is responsible for internal intelligence, counter-terror, and counter-espionage, and the Mossad, which deals with activities outside of Israel's borders. The Mossad, Israel's revered and often feared spy agency, lists its main objectives as follows. Neutralize military threats to the State of Israel. Bring justice to those who have harmed the Jewish people. Gather intelligence. Retaliate against the perpetrators of terror. Help Jewish refugees reach the land of Israel. What are some of the Mossad's most famous operations? The capture of Adolf Eichmann. In this operation, Mossad operatives captured Adolf Eichmann, the architect of the Nazis' final solution, in Argentina and clandestinely brought him to Israel to face trial and execution. This event changed the way the Jewish world dealt with the trauma of the Holocaust. Operation Wrath of God. Response to the 1972 Olympics Munich massacre. After the massacre at the 1972 Olympics, in which 11 Israeli athletes and coaches were murdered by terrorists, Prime Minister Golda Meir instructed the Mossad to track down and assassinate all those responsible. Although Israel had historically targeted the leaders of organizations such as Fatah, the Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO, and the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, PFLP, the frequency of such assassinations by Israel escalated dramatically in the wake of the massacre in Munich. A secret Israeli committee chaired by Prime Minister Golda Meir and Defense Minister Moshe Dayan is said to have authorized the assassination of everyone directly or indirectly involved with Black September, the Fatah-affiliated group that had orchestrated the Munich killings. The Wrath of God hit squad, codenamed Bayonet, was made up of members of Mossad, Israel's foreign intelligence agency, and supported by special operations teams from the Israel Defense Forces, IDF. The group spent years tracking down and killing those suspected of planning or participating in the Munich massacre. 3 of the 8 militants who had killed the athletes survived the massacre and were released weeks later from custody by the West German government in exchange for the crew of a hijacked Lufthansa jet. The other 5 died in a gun battle with police during a failed attempt to rescue the hostages. The hit squad first killed Wael Zwader, a PLO organizer and cousin of Yasser Arafat, shooting him in the lobby of his Rome apartment building in October 1972. Mahmoud Hamshari, the PLO representative in Paris, was targeted next. After a Wrath of God member, posing as an Italian journalist, scheduled a telephone interview with Hamshari in December 1972, Wrath of God explosives experts broke into his home and planted a bomb in his telephone. Hamshari was called at the time arranged for the interview, and, when he identified himself, the bomb was activated remotely. He died in the explosion. For other suspects, Basil al-Kubaisi, Husseinabad al-Chur, Saeed Muchassi, and Mohammed Boudia, were all killed during the next few months. The most spectacular mission in the Wrath of God campaign took place in April 1973. Ehud Barak, the leader of the IDF's elite Sayeret Matkal unit, developed an audacious plan to strike at PLO leadership. Dubbed Operation Spring of Youth, the mission involved the amphibious insertion of commando teams into Beirut. Once ashore, they coordinated their efforts with Mossad agents already in the city and deflected attention by donning civilian clothing. While other commando teams staged diversionary raids throughout the city and a squad of Israeli paratroopers assaulted the PFLP headquarters, the main force targeted Mohammed Youssef al-Najjar, Kamal Adwan, and Kamal Nasser, killing all three. In 1973, the squad misidentified one of its targets and mistakenly killed an innocent man in Lillehammer, Norway. The investigation of the crime by Norwegian authorities led to the arrest and conviction of 5 Mossad operatives, as well as to the unraveling of Mossad's extensive network of agents and safehouses throughout Europe. Meyer, responding to intense international pressure, suspended the targeted assassination program. Wrath of God's intended target in Lillehammer had been Ali Hassan Salameh, a Fatah and Black September operations chief known to Mossad as the Red Prince. The Wrath of God program was reactivated for a final mission in 1979 when the squad assassinated Salameh in Beirut with a car bomb placed along a route that he frequented. The secret airlifting of Ethiopian Jews to Israel, Operation Brothers. In the early 1980s, the Mossad set up a fake diving resort along the Sudanese coast on the Red Sea. It was a cover to secretly airlift thousands of Ethiopian Jews home to Israel. Eli Cohen. Israel's most legendary spy, Eli Cohen, under the pseudonym Camel Amin the Bet, successfully infiltrated the Syrian power elite in the 1960s and sent back information that was instrumental in building Israel's military intelligence against the Syrians, specifically for the Six-Day War of 1967.
Top 3 Mossad operations you may have never heard of. Although these stories may sound stranger than fiction, that's why the Mossad is so feared throughout the world. Number 1. The toothpaste assassination. Wadi Haddad was a leader of the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine's armed wing. He was the man responsible for planning and coordinating several airplane hijackings in the 1960s and 1970s, including the infamous Air France flight that was hijacked and flown to Entebbe, Uganda. Less than 2 years after the raid on Entebbe, a Mossad operative who had made it into Haddad's inner circle switched his toothpaste for a similar tube that had a deadly poison inside. Every time Haddad brushed his teeth, he would consume more of the deadly toxin, which entered his bloodstream and killed him quickly. Until recently, most believed he had died of natural causes. Number 2. The Hunt of the Red Prince. At the 1972 Munich Olympics, 11 members of the Israeli Olympic team were savagely murdered by the Black September Palestinian terrorist group. Soon after, the Mossad began Operation Wrath of God to bring the perpetrators to justice. The Mossad had difficulties tracking the ever-elusive Ali Hassan Salameh, the chief of operations for Black September, one of the most wanted men in the world. Salameh, known as the Red Prince, was a key ally to Yasser Arafat, the leader of the Palestine Liberation Organization, a potential successor to Arafat and living in Beirut. An Israeli Mossad agent who was assigned to the mission became friends with Salameh, gathering all of the required intelligence for the operation. Ultimately, on January 22, 1979, when leaving his home and surrounded by his bodyguards, a female British-Israeli agent detonated a bomb that killed the Red Prince and all of his guards. Number 3. Operation Spring of Youth. On April 9, 1973, a group of Israeli commandos, including Israeli legends Yoni Netanyahu, Mookie Betzer, and Ehud Barak, left Haifa for Lebanon by boat. Their mission was to eliminate major PLO, Palestine Liberation Organization, terrorist leaders who were connected to the massacre at the Munich Olympics. Upon arriving at the Lebanese shore, it took the commandos only 30 minutes to drive to their intended targets, assassinate the 3 top PLO leaders, drive back to the beach and board their boats for the return trip home to Israel. Top botched Mossad operations. But the Mossad has not always been perfect. The Lillehammer Affair. One of the Mossad's most infamous moments came during Operation Wrath of God, while trying to find the elusive Red Prince Ali Hassan Salameh, mentioned above. In Lillehammer, Norway, an Israeli secret agent saw Salameh in a cafe, sent the intel back to Israel, and a hit squad was quickly assembled. On July 21, 1973, the hitmen jumped out of their car and fired 8 shots at Salome, killing him on the spot and jumping back into their car, the perfect hit. The only issue is that they had the wrong guy. They killed Ahmed Bouchiki, an innocent Moroccan waiter with a pregnant wife. The botched assassination was a major blow to the Mossad's reputation, and 5 of the Israeli agents served jail time in Norway. Failed assassination of Khalid Mashal. In September 1997, soon after a wave of Hamas suicide bombings in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv that left over 20 Israelis dead and hundreds injured, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu demanded retaliation. On September 25, Israeli Mossad agents in Aman, Jordan, attempted to assassinate Khalid Mashal, the leader of Hamas, living in exile. The plan was to spray Mashal with a slow-acting lethal poison that would kill him within 48 hours. After spraying Mashal's ear and attempting to flee, the agents were stopped and captured, leading to the most tumultuous ordeal in the Mossad's history. Jordan threatened to tear up their peace treaty with Israel if they didn't offer an antidote for Mashal. Instead of killing Mashal, Israel ultimately brought Mashal back to life. He was dubbed the living martyr, Hamas was empowered, and Israel faced diplomatic humiliation. The Mossad, inside the missions of Israel's elite spy agency. Israel might be a tiny country, but its revered spy agency, the Mossad, is the stuff of legend. While there's so much the Mossad has done that we don't know about, and will probably never be revealed, the missions that have been made public are mind-blowing. From capturing Adolf Eichmann, to ending Syria's nuclear program and helping smuggle Ethiopian Jews to Israel, there are countless reasons the Mossad is not your average intelligence agency. Find out how this Israel intelligence agency came into being, why it's so feared and respected, and discover the role it plays in the overall security of the world's only Jewish state. Facts you should know about Mossad. Keenly aware of Israel's vulnerability, Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion established 3 intelligence agencies in 1949, Aman, Shabak, and Mossad. Mossad, which focuses on covert operations outside of Israel, answers only to the PM, raising ethical questions about the agency's MO. Mossad's weapon of choice has often been targeted assassination, which is quicker, cleaner, and safer than waging a conventional war, especially because terror groups are not a conventional target. Some of Mossad's targeted assassinations are a spectacular success. During Operation Spring of Youth, future PM Ehud Barak led a small strike force into the heart of Beirut, where they took down 3 high-profile PLO members as well as crucial PLO infrastructure. In one of those truth-is-stranger-than-fiction twists, half his men were dressed as women, so that no one would suspect a gang of dudes walking through Beirut at night. Other missions require great creativity and advanced technologies. For example, Wadi Haddad, the co-founder of radical terror group PFLP, had managed to escape multiple assassination attempts. So Mossad put a bioweapon in his toothpaste. After his death, the PFLP disintegrated. Sometimes, assassinations don't go as planned. Perhaps the most famous fumble was the attempted killing of Khalid Mashal, the Hamas bureau chief and future head of the organization. The Israelis deployed incredible creativity and technology, but a lack of planning and some extraordinary bad luck turned the mission sideways. As a result, 8 Mossad operatives got stuck in Jordan, and the Israeli government was forced to hand over the antidote and release a number of high-profile terrorists from prison in exchange for their return. It was a rare and embarrassing bungle for the Mossad. Hi friends. I hope you are all learn what is Mossad agency. If you learned something through this video, then please support us. Have a nice day. Goodbye and take care.